Hello everyone, welcome to the Sibe channel. I am going to go over today preliminary design and fabrication of a new platform for a bunch of wing accessories we've got from our new Bowlink collection. And I haven't really planned this video out too much. I wasn't going to do it, but I decided at the last second I'd do a little video on how I'm going to design this platform. May never ever do something like this again because it slows down my process if I've got to shoot this stuff and everything. So I'm not super excited about doing it, and I haven't scripted this in any sort of way. Not that I really script a lot of things that I do. So if I come across as kind of clueless when I'm doing this, it's because I haven't really been thinking about how to describe this to somebody else yet. So first thing, there's wing platform I currently use and gear covers that is interchangeable. We have different size ones of these with the little hose attachment that attach to this, another matching set of legs and everything, and they screw in from the top, and then I put whatever I want in there. I'm gonna do I have a similar situation with our large platform for our large forms, bucks, molds, that has a little bit wider base feet to it. That's probably what I'm gonna end up using for this new design, but this as just a demonstration sort of thing. So on this, we have a slight raise in here so air can circulate in and around underneath and be sucked in around the outsides of the wings, around the edges, because a lot of these don't have much of in the way of air evacuation on top and everything. So we put a little gap in here to raise it up a little bit so that it forms correctly and the air comes out. This one, for example, does have some holes in here because this one is hollow, but we have other ones that aren't really hollow at all. So you have to have the air somewhere, give it a path to escape easily. And I've been working on different drawings here that I'm with scrap paper, measurements and everything. And I've settled on basically two different designs for what I've got here. Oh, yeah, here's the other leg. Man, clueless today. See, I told you, I haven't really thought this out, I was gonna do this. All right, so we've got the two different designs laid out right here in our wings, and they have to do with the width, in this case, of each wing. We've got over here kind of our, I guess, a medium-sized sort of wings, and they come in two different designs. One that's ribbed for your downforce pleasure and one that's not ribbed. And I'm gonna put these two to a form. They may end up being positioned like this on the platform. And right now we're looking at about what did we come up with, a 10-inch by 10.75 inch. And we're getting the 10.75 because we have this already on hand that we use for some of the other forms and everything. And what it'll do is we'll be able to position this in between two rails and have another one on the opposite side and shrink and enlarge this depending on what we want to do. And in this case, since we have two different ones, this is will be positioned depending on what we're doing to allow these larger wings to be run. So we're gonna have two platforms kind of like this, but bigger, about double this size. And that will hopefully allow us to run two wings at once. I've mentioned in other videos I don't really like to try and do a whole lot more at once, but we're gonna give it a try again because we're doing a different setup so that hopefully we fit right in line with the heater elements so that they're under the same heater elements all the time and they're not bridging a gap between the big gap that exists between the big heater elements, which I'll try and show a little picture here real quick of our machine and where you can kind of see the gap between the heater elements and how that kind of affects stuff. You're gonna have a little cool spot there and that will affect how the things form and heat and everything for you. So we're trying to avoid that by going right down the middle of the machine. Normally we go across, this time we're gonna go right down the middle with it is the idea. Is this gonna work? No, but this video I'm shooting, you'll see, maybe. I don't know, I may not show it if it doesn't work. We'll see. Depends how ashamed I am with my failures on this one. And then we've got another platform that's gonna have three on it, but it's gonna be these little spoilers that are for our stock cars. And we have three of these like this. One's a little bit longer than the other one. And we'll probably position the longer one in the middle, and we're trying to do the three of them. Because they're so small, I think we can get 3 of them on there, hopefully without any problems. We'll try and position that middle one, the bigger one in the middle. We may end up having to revise that and say just trying 2 at a time. But this is all brand new for me. These wings, I've never run these before, except for a couple of them here. And I don't know how it's gonna work, so we'll give it a try. Then we've got this smaller wings here. I think these are more of a 12 scale wing, and they're gonna be 2 on a platform as well. We had this with another mold. We originally ran this before, because sometimes you may buy some bodies. If you remember some of the older Losi's, for example, is probably the thing that comes to mind the most. They tended to try and run the wing and the touring car body at the same time on the same thing. And I tried a similar sort of thing with a 12 scale and the body, you know, a 12 scale body and this wing. And it sort of worked, but it had problems forming down around it. And part of the reason is because on those larger mold platforms, we don't really have this recess underneath for a pass for the air to evacuate out. So we had to cut some channels in the bottom of this to kind of get to where the wing was at. But also it gets to that whole heating thing again I'm talking about, is that you then put your hottest plastic generally maybe right over a spot in the mold that you don't really want it on for the car, and it can make excessive webbing happen and everything, because your droopiest part of the plastic that stretched the most is not in an ideal spot on your form anymore. So ideally you want to move the mold more towards the center and have your wing out further out the back. But then once you put it closer to the edge of your machine, the plastic's not as hot and it's less likely to form correctly around the wing. So there's trade-offs. That's why I generally just don't try and do it. There's so much to get it just perfect. I try and run my wings separately because I get better consistent results with stuff. Then over onto the bigger wings, we've got this much bigger, thinner, narrow wing. I think this is for our touring car, 190 millimeter, 200 millimeter touring cars that we have. And we've got a few of these. There's 2 more right there, but we're gonna try and run one with by itself with the Turismo spoiler, and which is a little bit longer. It's actually longer, just a little bit longer than these other wings right here. So we're gonna run this on a different platform size. That's, what are we looking at for that one? What did we decide on? That one is gonna be 10.75, this dimension again, but it's gonna be even bigger in the other direction. The other one was 10. This one's gonna be 13.375 overall length on it. That this is gonna be separated, 2 of them separated. It's 13.375. And the 10.75 dimension, we have to cheat that a little bit and reduce that just a little bit so we have clearance when the platform comes in. We don't want things to be too tight. The 13.75 or the 10-inch dimension in the other direction, it doesn't really matter a whole lot because, like I said, we can position these anywhere we want. It's those other ones that we don't have as much leeway if we want to keep these positioned just right and everything. We could have a little bit of a gap. We could cheat it a little bit, but I'd rather not do that. So we'll, instead of 10.75, as my notes say, 10.75, a little less. So we'll probably take about a 1/16 of an inch off that and make sure that we've got clearance when the platform comes up in between the frame. And yeah, that takes care of that. Now, as you see on this previous one, we would just stack this right on top. And this is not what I want to do anymore for a design. We have for our car forms gone to this, and this should be another video I should do. I think we've got it, maybe it's in the works ready. This has got a little ring around it and the forms drop down inside for the cars and truck forms. This is what I want to do going forward for the wings. So that's what we're going to do. It won't probably be the same thickness. I think we've decided on, what is it? For the one, we're going to do about 2 inches. Yeah, for the larger one, we're going to do about 2 inches. And what that allows us to do is have a spot for every single one to have the web catcher. So on the side, if you've ever seen these in our slow-mo video, perhaps here recently, our slow-mo compilation, we put web catchers on the side here to help make sure that we don't get webbing in the corners on these wings and have this nice small sheet size. If you had bigger sheet size, you might be okay and get it to form without something like this. But to save plastic and everything like this, since this direction, these sides of the wing are get cut out, it doesn't matter so much that they might thin out a little bit more because there's not as much material this direction, but we give more material this direction because these side dams need to be nice and thick. So we put a web catcher here, and that makes sure that it catches that excess plastic that might be in that area and prevents the webbing in the corners. So we're going to make it so that that ring on the outside can be attached with the, or have the web catcher attached on them, and there'll be like 4 of them, 2 for each wing that we're going to be using. And when we go and switch out, you know, the 2 wings that we have here for the next set, we can just leave the web catchers in place. They don't have to be moved, because I've done a few of these. Instead of making a whole bunch of them, I just have a few of them and I move them around per use case. I don't have them on just permanently on every single one. These are just made of wood, drilled out with the whole countersunk screw going in them. If you're really in the industry, you'll know there's some material out there, kind of a plastic composite material that you can sand and carve down and do the same sort of thing with. It's generally used a lot for assists. So an upper platen comes in and would push your plastic down into a female form, and then you'd have the air engage. Or just for something to help push plastic down in a certain spot on a mold, a problem spot that has webbing. That's what that material is generally used for. A lot in the industry for web catchers, they're using little sulfide stick foam pieces, which I hate because they can give you inconsistent results because that foam compresses under the vacuum, and also the adhesive tends to let go after a while and you've got to put new ones on. And why bother? You can do this and it just holds it in place and it doesn't come out. It's great. I have these numbered so I know which I've used previously on a form. You can see here this says 2 and 1, so I've got things like this that are say 1 and 2, and I put the one in that I used to give me optimal results. Make sure I keep consistent across my every production run. Know exactly what those recipe kind of was to get the best results. So that's going to happen on those. Those will have a spot where these can be attached. On the ones over here, I'm not going to do that because I kind of optimized the thing to be a little bit narrower, because I got to get this wing, this big spoiler in there. And if I put it at like the 2 inches that I was doing over, I'm going to do for these other ones, this wing's going to be in the way, overhanging that. We don't want that, so we aren't going to do that with this one. I mean, maybe I could get away with it. It would bridge that little gap there. It probably wouldn't be a big deal. But when this is in storage and everything, the risk that this is hanging out and it gets damaged or banged up and broken off the mount or whatever, and the actual mounting holes are pretty close to the edge. So that's the overall design. I'm going to then now get the dimensions laid out on a big piece of MDF, and I'm going to get our bandsaw outside in the grass and everything, and get in. We got an outside outlet. We'll get the plate. I do not do the drilling or the sawing in the shop. We want to keep the dust and dirt down as much as possible, so none of that type of stuff generally is done in the shop. We try and do that outside or at another location to keep that to a minimum. It's really, really important you try and keep as clean of an environment as possible when you're vacuum forming, and that's a whole nother video also in itself. So yeah, next shot you're going to see here is probably me just sawing out the basic shapes. I will have to do the old trick of making the ring by drilling out a hole in the kind of near to the edge, and then running I have a little handheld jigsaw sort of thing that will run around it to cut the inner kind of circle out, the donut hole out. And if we do like we did with the doing this, we will use that scrap piece for one of these mounts on here. We won't let it go to waste. And then what we'll do is we will have to, like this has the holes for the feet on it here, we will have to take these new platforms and drill them out so that we can attach the feet to them as well. And then we will put in, we've got them already somewhere sitting here. You can't see it because the tape's kind of covering up to make sure we don't have air leakage. We will put T-nuts. Yeah, there we go. T-nuts into the bottom. This one's got T-nuts in it as well. And here we put T-nuts into that new platform, and then bolts will go through this into those T-nuts to affix it to the platform. So that's the general idea. Is this all gonna work? I sure hope so, because we want to start running these here in the near future. We're getting down there where we just have a bunch of stock car stuff left, and we need some wings for the stock cars, but we need to get some wings made for some other stuff. I don't know there's a huge demand for it, but I want to be able to do it. And maybe with some of our other ones that we've been doing, the RC10 and the JRX2 V-Wing, maybe this will allow us to run, you know, one of those or both of those on a platform at the exact same time to increase our productivity. That'd be sure nice. That's one thing, is that these can take a lot of time, and they're not a real high profit sort of thing for the amount of time that it takes to make them. Should really, to be honest, I should probably charge more for these the way we're currently doing them. But I'm trying to keep them at an affordable price for people trying to restore stuff. So I kind of eat a little bit more of the profit than I probably should be on those. But I try and bundle them with the car bodies to make it a little more worth my time, if possible. So, all right, like I said, next thing you'll see here is the cutting of the wood. All right, it's already done here. We've already cut these down. Actually, I was too lazy. I did not want to bring out the tripod and camera and everything, so I'm doing this with a phone handheld. And there we go. There's the boards cut up on the trusty Craftsman, old Craftsman. And this is now, we've got it marked for what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it next, which is we'll come in here and drill a hole here and a hole there and a hole over there and a hole over there, so we can start in with our handheld scroll saw and cut to the corner and cut to the corner and get all the way around there, no problem. And that will give us our ring that we're going to have. And we went with a 1 inch here, or sorry, 2 inches here and then 1 inch here. That'll give plenty of room for the web catcher blocks here, and then this is going to give plenty of room for the wing to not be too close to the edge and everything. If we can get 2 of them in here of this larger wing. This is the larger version that we're working on right here, the 10.75 to 13 by 13 something or other. So we're getting that donut made, basically, that all the platforms will, or the mold boards will sit down into. We'll get that cut out and should be on our way. Hi everyone watching this video. Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to quickly say that if you've watched any of our videos before, you probably know our business is not doing YouTube videos. It is actually selling RC car bodies. So if you're watching this vacuum forming video and you like the content and you want to see more of it, please consider subscribing to the channel. We don't do any sort of Patreon thing. We don't want any money from you at all, unless you want to buy some of our RC car bodies. But by you subscribing or even probably liking the video, it helps us get our video recommended to more people, and hopefully it gets more brand awareness for our RC car body business. And then if we sell more RC car bodies, we can afford to take the time to do more of these type of videos, which there is quite a few I would like to do if time allows in the near future here. So please subscribe, and thanks a lot for watching. On that first one, I told you what we were going to do, which was 4 holes and then drill to the corner. I like to do this method rather than starting in a corner with the hole, because it gives me cleaner corners, which are more important when you're trying to fit stuff in there. On this next one, I'll show you the other method I'm talking about, where is we put a hole in this corner and a hole over in this corner, and then we can cut this way to this corner and then this way to this corner. So you only have to do 2 holes rather than 4. Yeah, I don't know. This is probably a better way to do it, but I'm a weirdo and do it the other way. Almost forgot to mention that this is the smaller platform that we're doing. So this is the one we talked about earlier, that we're going to have a little less of a border here in it. We won't be attaching the web catchers probably to this part. It'll be web catchers going on the wood that's going to be attached to the molds or bucks instead, like we do with our current wing design and everything, and for, well, sometimes gear covers. So this one will allow us to get this full, that one spoiler all the way across here. Okay, both versions are done now. You can see this one far less holes in it compared to the other one, but they both look pretty much just as good. You can see the corner there's a lot uglier, and I must have, maybe I'm putting too much pressure, or I didn't check my blade when I was cutting, but there seems to be a little bit of an angle in there. So we have to make sure that when we use this kind of as a template or a guide for our other molds to go on, because this will be good for one and we'll have to make some more, that we take the largest dimension or the smallest dimension from this and use that as our sizes that we need to cut our other ones. We want a little bit of play in there so they aren't too tight of a fit and they can just drop in place. We did that with the other ones. So the first ones we did, we had them way too tight of tolerances, that so much that we had to have them marked so they get oriented exactly the right way every time they put in, other to match the kind of the more crooked cuts we have in the ring and everything. So then later on, when we've done like the new molds and forms that we've got here recently, we made sure to give ourselves a little more clearance on it and put that not as tight of tolerances on it, so we can just drop it any orientation into it. And we'll do that with these too. We'll give ourselves a little bit of play in it so we can drop it any way we like and have the holes hopefully all match up. And so that will mean that when we go to do the bottom part here, that we make sure we get our holes for mounting, probably 4 holes on, again, like we always do, that we make sure we get them a perfect square basically in the middle here, so that the holes will line up no matter the 2 different orientations, 180 around, that they line up correctly. All right, on to the next part, which is going to be attaching the rings to the bottom part. This is also, I think we're going to put in a little piece of material in between the two to raise this up a little bit, and it will extend out into here a little bit, so that when we put the mold platform or the mold board into here, there'll be that cavity underneath for air to come through if we need holes on it and everything. So we'll see more what I'm talking about here in a little bit. All right, so this is what we're going to be using as spacer between the platform main base and this. We'll use it to build stuff up. I have all this laying around for other stuff. I forget what we used this for originally. I can't remember the name of what this is. It's not chipboard. What the heck is the name of it? Anyway, we got it marked out here. We'll cut this out. This will be the starting point, and then just like we did here, we'll have to cut a ring out, but we will make the ring a little bit bigger than what you see here, so that when you drop the mold in, it'll sit up a little higher. And then, well, not really higher, but it'll sit up off the surface of the board that's underneath, so there's an air gap between the two, and air can escape from around the form. And then that should be all set for that. We just have to make this another donut slightly bigger than what we have here, and we'll be set. All right, here's the point we're at right now. Stopping for today on this. The ring is put in there, just dry fit. Nothing's fastened in right now. We will use some gasket sealer, ultra copper high temp gasket sealer in here to seal stuff up underneath on both sides of things. If you recall, there'll be a hole in the middle here eventually for the air escape for the hose attachment. These are little supports to put in to make sure that the MDF doesn't bow under pressure and collapse and potentially cause problems with the molds or the bucks breaking them under stress. We may adjust these once we get the hole in place. We won't fasten these in until we get the hole in and kind of know what we're going to do for attachment of that and how big it's going to be. And may put it close to the hole as possible, so that we don't have to worry about it being in the way of any air evacuation holes for any molds that we use in the future. These might even get made more like almost like squares too instead. These are just scrap pieces from the center of this that we've cut out. Nothing too crazy. Oh, yeah, we're making, oh, and then we will take this over to the drill press, which is not here. That is actually in my garage, my home garage. And we will clamp these together temporarily and then put a hole there and put a hole there with the drill press to start and put in the drywall screws I normally use just to fasten these together permanently. Get that figured out, and then take them apart again, most likely put the gasket stuff on, and then use these two to get it fastened down. And then we'll come in once this is holding everything together, and we will drill holes to start the drywall screws in the rest of this. Just a small little drill bit. I'll show you that later when we get to that stage. But yeah, they'll sandwich everything together nice and tight then. Probably about 1, 2, 3, 3, 6, 8, probably about 8 drywall screws we'll use on this. And same thing, of course, with this one over here, which is the same thickness we use over here, pretty much. Maybe we got that a little thinner. Hopefully, that's definitely why we're gonna drill a pilot hole first, so we don't have to worry about stuff splitting out when we go to fasten it. It may bulge out though a little bit, because that definitely looks, well, yeah, maybe we got a little close over here. You can see with the saw blade when we were cutting stuff. But yeah, this will be no problem to go together, and we'll be all set then for fastening everything together. Once we get it also fastened together, we will figure out where the leg hole placement's going to be in here, so we can get those put in. I've got to double check which way the orientation goes for that. We don't want to put the legs going the wrong direction in this. I got to go look at my original plan again for that. But yeah, we're cruising along. Here we are in my personal garage space this time, where I've got the drill press at, since like I said before, I don't like to do the sawing and drilling in the Sibe shop space, because that is needs to be in a clean state as much as possible. So as you can see, look at all the dust and junk back here, you know. So, and I'm not a good housekeeper for stuff. So this is going to be where we're going to do the drilling. To start this out, we'll do the corners here real quick, put in some drywall screws in, and actually we'll drill the corners first, put the sealant on, and then put in the drywall screws. And then we'll come back and we'll drill the rest of the holes, pilot holes out to put the rest of the drywall screws in. And that's to ensure we don't split out the MDF. Okay, change of plan. Can you guess what I forgot to bring from the shop? Yeah, I forgot to bring the gasket seal stuff, and I don't want to go back and go get it. So we have put in the first corner screws just temporarily, partway in. We will drill out the other pilot holes for the other screws in here, and then we'll go back to the shop and finish it up there. This should be fine. I swear, I'm one of those type of people that, you know, if my name wasn't written in my underwear, I'd forget it. So we'll just do what we can for now, and then we'll go back to the shop and do the gasket seal and really button up all the screws on here. Hey, back at the shop, working on this while we got plastic drying. So here's this side's gonna get flipped over and stuck down. Wherever there's a screw hole, we put a little dab to help seal up, so that when the plastic's on top, it hopefully won't draw any air in through there, you know, from the outside, not pulling in from the inside, but it's pulling in air potentially from this side, or this side, you know, this side into where the vacuum is. We don't want that. So through the top where the sheet's laying, that's what we're trying to do, is seal up the hole where the screws are from where the sheet's going to be laying on top. So we got this side done. We'll flip it over, do the same thing basically on the other side, put the top down on it, and we'll screw it down and should be good to go. Oh my gourd. Okay, this one's done. Can you see the problem I had? Not doing this style before with this extra spacer in, I put the gasket seal for the top part right close to the edge, but I forgot. This is not meeting up clear up the edge. So I had to come in and kind of smear and squish the stuff back to get underneath the top side here. So that was a little bit of an annoyance. And we're gonna have to come in and clean this up, because if we don't clean it up, the boards will sit up quite a bit, because this stuff will get hard and then it will be in the way. So yeah, we'll have to clean that up a little bit here. And when I go do the small, this is the bigger one. When I go do the smaller one this time, I will not make the mistake. What we'll do is we'll apply the gasket seal to the top part instead of the center part, and that'll make sure we don't have that problem again. So yeah, if you're doing one of these, don't do like I did. All right, the smaller one is done, all sealed up. This one went much better since we put the gasket material in the correct place. So now that leaves, we need to put the holes in for the feet, for the platform. We'll have to get the, we'll use this one over here as a template. We'll flip them, flip this upside down, flip this upside down, get any obstructions out of the way, and we'll drill through this into that board and use it, using this one as a template then for the feet mounting. We'll have to do one on each side. I gotta double check which direction these need to go. I forget which way we gotta be oriented. And then we also have to, after that, we have to create, probably with one of these, we'll use one of these and decide where we want to have the holes for mounting these onto the platform. And we will drill through then this one to get through both of them to get the spots where the, what do you call it? I forgot this last time. T-nuts. The T-nuts are going to be mounted to the bottom of this so that we can screw and have a nice fixture for the bolts to go into. We don't have to screw into just plain MDF. It'll go right into the T-nuts and be secure. And then we'll seal up the T-nuts. On this one, unlike this one, we'll seal up the T-nuts to the bottom side so the air cannot be drawn in from the bottom as well, where the T-nuts are located at. And I've also learned too, for these, there's other kinds out there, but the ones I have, what we'll do is we'll put a small wood screw up against the T-nut to make sure the T-nut does not come back out of the wood. That's usually the best way. I've tried to do over the years, I've tried to do, what was it, like an adhesive, but those, a lot of them tend to not stand up to the pressure and the heat very well. They give out due to the heat fairly quickly. Oh, and I got gasket sealer. Bases are ready. This one looks a little more complicated because this is the one where I've got to make kind of eyeball things in underneath, no exact real measurements. Mounted one there and one there.